I would say bright and early, but it is not freaking bright and early at all. I didn't have any class today, so I got to sleep way in. So, though this is meal number 1, I've kind of been up floating around for a while. I already did my cardio, came back, just kind of chilled for a little bit and prepared this whole little display. I couldn't help myself. I kind of ate a little bit of it before I even started the clip. But basic, I guess let's just break down what it is. So 50 grams of protein worth of egg whites out of a carton. Like, it's cool doing the egg whites from like a dozen of eggs. You crack it, separate the yolk, whatever. I mean, I've probably gone through at least hundreds, probably thousands of separated yolks, but then you're just wasting them. It's like, what are you doing, So if you're just going for the egg whites, just buy it in a carton, right? Pour it into the pan, put the pan on a scale, weigh it out to make sure you get your 460 grams, right? You do the math. One serving, 5 grams of protein, and it's 46 grams. So if you want 50, you need 460 grams of the egg whites. It's not like this stuff is complicated math-wise, but you gotta make sure you track all this stuff on the scale. It's not like you can't get good results just kind of guessing stuff, but the scale, like actually well, for one thing, just tracking shit in general, but actually using the scale too, it's kind of the only way to be really consistent with this stuff. So I already plugged in all the macros of this little 50 grams worth of egg whites, plus a pre-chopped salad that I kind of mixed into it. And the point of that is not like, okay, I'm dieting, I need to eat my vegetables. It's really, plain egg whites are just so boring. Like, there's no texture. You just kind of feel like you're eating mush in a sense. So when I mix in, some chopped vegetables and then kind of turn it into sort of an omelet. So leave it in the pan, mix in all the, chopped salad, whatever, put 2 slices of pepper jack cheese on it. And once the whole thing's cooked through, flip it over on itself. Perfect. And then just cover it with some low calorie Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce, 8 grams of carbs worth. So now I need to plug in this cup of Carb Master milk. I would have gone for some Carb Master chocolate milk, but in the Kroger that I go to, it's always out of stock now. I guess I should have kept that to myself, because now you guys keep taking all the milk I like. But 1 serving of the Carb Master regular milk, or I guess it's basically skim, 3 grams of carbs and 11 grams of protein. Well, oh yeah, and then there's 6 things of fish oil in here, so that's going to add up to like 9 grams of fat. You got to count even your freaking little fish oil, man. That's fat, so you got to count that stuff. So I'll just overlay this. So once I eat all this, I'll be at 793 calories for the day. I guess technically I did eat a little bit. I got these little spicy, like pretzel chips, and I kind of had some of those before I went and did my cardio. But I still put it on the scale, weighed out the bag, had my snacks, and then weighed it out again to find out exactly how much I had. A lot of people, if you try to get in a deficit, if you just kind of constantly snacking, like if you grab a couple chips in the kitchen and you don't track it, maybe if you do that once a day, who cares? Negligible. But constantly just eating stuff without tracking it, it'll add up. I mean, you could think that you're in a freaking deficit, but you could be in a freaking total surplus. So no wonder you're not actually going to lose weight. So this is a pretty basic, well, not basic, but what I was trying to say was this is about right in terms of fitting the criteria of a dieting meal that I would want to eat, right? Mainly protein. I don't want to eat all my carbs at once. I do kind of want to time them around when I'm training, just because, I'm using carbs as fuel. But as a breakfast, this is kind of a go-to for me. It's 50 grams of protein, right? It's hitting the little protein check mark perfectly. And then, maybe it's like about 8 grams of carbs from the barbecue sauce, right? Like nothing. And then a little bit of fat from the cheese, but it still tastes pretty good. About 9 grams of fat there. Right? So I haven't really jumped into my carb stores that much at all. So once I finish this, I'll be pretty full for the next couple hours before I eat whatever I'm going to eat next. And that's really the idea of any meal that you're trying to eat when you're dieting, Like, I could have this same amount of calories worth of, like, let's just say, maybe an 8-ounce steak and then some cereal on the side. Like, I could still hit this 800 calorie mark. But all the calories from that cereal and just like the milk or whatever, just like normal kind of sweet foods with a lot of sugar, a lot of carbs, like, it's not very filling. It's not really going to fill me up as much. I don't know if you have ever looked this sort of thing up, but there's basically a glycemic index, which is like almost a grading scale per se on how quickly you can like break down and absorb carbs from different sources, So things like oatmeals, complex grains, like yams, stuff like that. Like that's what you typically call like a complex carb, right? So it's not just going to spike your blood sugar or anything. So when you have like a bowl of cereal or no, what am I saying? Like a bowl of oatmeal, right? Or like yams or these complex carbs that don't really just spike your blood sugar, they're going to keep you fuller for longer. So in a dieting context, oh god damn it, what the fuck? I got fucking barbecue sauce on my Hostile brand wear hoodie. So what the fuck was I even just saying? Yeah. So when you eat foods like that, like the oatmeal and the yams and stuff, it's going to make you fuller for longer because it's not going to give you like a huge up and down on your blood sugar. So in a dieting context, sure, you could eat like, I've got 200 carbs kind of allocated for the day for me to eat for this diet. I could get all those from just Skittles and ice cream, but it wouldn't make me feel full. So I'd be hungrier even though I'm, still eating the same amount of carbs. Because sure, it would like spike my blood sugar. I'd feel good when I ate it, but then I'd be hungrier way sooner afterwards. So, basic premise, foods that make you feel full, but don't have a lot of calories in them. So I'm just going to sit here and, scratch at this for a while. Watch another episode of Jujutsu Kaisen, and then we can fucking jump to meal number 2, which is probably going to be the pre-lift meal, just kind of by guessing based on what time it is now. But we'll see. We'll keep track of the macros too. Let me slam the vitamins first. There we go. Now let's get to meal 2. All right, substantial time has passed. I meant to go fold my laundry and wash my sheets. Did not get done, but whatever. So, meal number 2. I've kind of been scratching at this for a while, but pound of ground beef, 1 slice of pepper jack cheese, 60 grams of low sugar barbecue sauce again, and then 5 grams of fat worth of kind of a buffalo hot sauce. So the ground beef, cook it on its own, and then, actually that kind of warrants some attention. It is a little bit of a process. So my go-to method, pan, pot. Honestly, I've been cooking the ground beef in a pot just because it makes it easier for me to stir it up, and I don't have to worry about it splashing outside the walls. But whatever, throw it in, kind of chop it up with your little spatula. Right, totally brown. But there's a ton of, sure, water as well, but all the fat that kind of seeped out of the meat is just floating around the bottom. In a dieting context, you kind of want to mitigate that part. I'm not eating the ground beef for the fat contents. Maybe a little bit just because the animal fats are going to be good for you, whatever. But I don't need that extra fat. So straight out of the pot, I'll just go outside of the back door, pour the whole thing into a little like metal strainer, right? Shake it around, have the shit fall out, and then pour it back in, add the sauce, the cheese, put it back on the stove a little bit, mix it up, and then it's solid. So that's about 80 grams of protein. I didn't have it all at once. Your body can handle a lot of protein at once, but I have been scratching at this for like the last hour. Well, not an hour, but like maybe 30 minutes. And I'll probably keep chewing on it for a little bit longer. Right now, I don't need to just instantly down my meals like a maniac. You know, I'm not in a rush to hit my 2,500 calorie limit. You know, I'm actually trying to go a snail's pace so I don't, overeat and then end up being hungry later at night. So it's not like, well, actually kind of snacking in general, if you're trying to diet down, is a little bit of a, I don't want to say it's good for you, just because you're kind of constantly like teasing yourself to eat more food. But if you kind of, prepare a meal, obviously you track everything in it, and you can make it last maybe, 20, 30 minutes. Maybe you eat it while you're doing your work or, something or another, instead of just like scarfing it down in 5 seconds, right? It's just going to be easier not to want to eat more food later on, if you kind of understand my logic. So, since this is pretty much the pre-workout meal, I'm going to lift in probably, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half-ish. I want to be fully freaking hydrated. So this is about a liter or so worth of water. This is not the pre. This is just some Silo 9 amino acid and electrolyte mix. So when you see a dude walking around with this gallon jug, he's nearly got the right idea, right? He's close. But just drinking water on its own, you're not totally maximizing your hydration. I don't want to sound like a fucking, I sound like you're, what's the fucking word I'm trying to think of? Oh, whatever. I sound like a fucking nutritionist. Like, you can't just drink your pure water for hydration, but whatever. So electrolytes are seriously going to get you when it comes to, feeling hydrated, feeling good. Really, there's no other way to say it than that. Like right now, obviously I'm not slamming my system full of carbs, so I'm not totally full. So if I don't drink a solid amount of water, plus, electrolytes, magnesium, potassium, so you get the gist, right? If I don't have a lot of that floating around in my system from either like, dedicated electrolyte packets, some kind of powdered stuff like this, then my lift is gonna kind of suffer, Like, as soon as I wake up in the morning, I'll have one of these, a liter and a half, just already made next to my bed. And that's the first thing I do when I get up. I just slam the whole thing because I know it's going to make me feel better for cardio and just, for the rest of the day too. And I'm not saying that for like an arbitrary reason, like, oh, it's good for you to be hydrated. Any advice and any kind of tips that I say or any kind of practice that I follow, it's pretty much not just for no reason. It's serving the purpose of like kind of trying to improve my training. So if I think I'm going to get a better pump from being fully hydrated and I'm going to have better lifts, then I'm going to stimulate my muscles better. They're going to grow more after I rest and recover. I think I'm going to try to make sure I get down I don't really make sure I hit like a gallon a day, but I don't know, at least a couple of liters for sure. So I'm going to keep scratching at this. I kind of took a nap earlier too. I'm still a little sluggish from that. I really need to wake up. But I'm sure once I get driving to the gym, plus the pre's in my system, then I'll be freaking wired for legs. I'm already getting kind of excited for those mid-quad squats. So let's just cut to getting the pre set up. Oh, wait, see, what's the current macros so far once I finish this meal? All right, so once I finish this, that'll put me at 1,436 calories. I'll have 100 grams of protein left and about 180 grams of carbs left for post-workout. That sounds about right. So let's cut to the pre-preparation. I tell you what, I've seen worse. Right? This is a chore. This is not just a total a total hack job of a kitchen. But whatever. Let's actually break down what's going on here. So, intra. That's kind of how it ends up lining up. Usually I'd have it's kind of over there. Well, it's some clustered dextrin, like just pretty much really just powdered carbs, but since So in a bulking context, I'd want to be, pretty much slamming carbs all day long. But intra-workout especially, I kind of want, if I'm already going to be drinking like a liter and a half of water, if I can get 75, 100 grams of carbs in there, then that's another 400 calories into my system that I don't even have to think about. But right now with, the maintaining a calorie deficit, there's no need to have a ton of freaking, carbs in my intra, so I'll just do some more of the blueberry lemonade Silo 9. Refill this from before. So in terms of the pre, I end up doing the same amount. Well, I might be inclined to do a little bit more of the hostility, right? The pre that actually has stims in it on a leg day, just because it's kind of a lengthier lift for me. Like, for me, chest and back, well, I guess I do side delts and rear delts with them now, but, chest and back isn't going to be so taxing on my whole system as a full-on leg day would. So usually, maybe instead of just one scoop of the hostility, I might be inclined to do more like 1.5. But then I'll still do 2 scoops of the bloodshot. So I kind of feel like I have to clear this up. I'll get comments that are asking, what's the point of the cut? Like what am I cutting for? Am I dieting for a show? If I'm not doing a show, then what's the point of dieting? Which, valid point, valid question. So let me kind of elaborate, even though I've kind of said this, maybe 100 times before. So if you bulk hard, like actually fucking hard, you'll kind of get to a point where not only are you kind of going to be plateaued just in terms of your progress, but even just getting the food down. Like if you're eating in a legit surplus, like after a couple months, you'll get to a point, and I don't mean 2 months, I mean like, 4 months, 5, like that. You'll just get to a point where you kind of have to give yourself a little break from pushing all the food. And then, kind of couple that with the fact that your progress is probably plateaued. It just makes sense that you'd want to just reset yourself for the next bulk, right? So the way that my weight has been changing over the last about 2 years that I've been bulking and cutting is, this is baseline right here. So this is where I started, and this is where we are now. So bulk for a couple of months, cut for about 2 months, and this point right here is heavier than over here, right? I did a bulk for, 4 or 5 months, 3 months, something like that, 2-month cut, and I'm heavier at the end of that bulking and cut loop than I was in the beginning. And I've just kind of been repeating that climb, cut, climb, cut, climb, cut, like that. Now, in terms of main gaining, if you wanted to try to just do a steady line of growth, do whatever you want. I'm not necessarily saying, well, actually, I'm definitely not saying that that's like the best way to go about it. I'm just kind of saying that that's how I've been doing it for a while. I've got it all tracked in a spreadsheet. That looks pretty cool. I get a little bit lazy with it sometimes, but over the last 2 years, at least a couple of times a week, I'll plot my morning weight, and I can actually see that trend line over time. That's kind of just another benefit of tracking your stuff. If you do it for long enough, you get to kind of look back at the data, and like if you make a little spreadsheet of like a line graph, apart from the fact that it kind of just proves your progress, it's just kind of fun. So I'm going to add some water to these 2 things. Then we can get in the car and get ready for legs. All right, so I'm a little bit torn right now. I'm trying to think about what gym I want to go to. So I've got basically 2 options. One is like 30 minutes away. It's already 8 o'clock. I don't want to go that far, but I've got the school rec, which is 2 minutes away. It has a leg extension, which is all right. It has a hamstring curl. It's got a hack squat. I'll be able to do my normal squats. But I kind of like the leg extension at the other gym. Yeah. No, okay, no, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to change it up. I've been going to the school rec center like every day this past week and a half. I want to change it up. So it's kind of nice having multiple gym memberships. Not only due to the fact that like you'll have access to more machines, because more likely than not, 2 different gyms are going to have two different sets of equipment. So, yeah, I think I'll go to the other one. Let's. I don't even want to sip on this. Let's just slam it before we get over there and discuss what's about to freaking go down. Ooh, sour. I probably should have added a little bit more water. But I did drink that whole, liter-ish of the Silo 9 electrolyte mix. So I feel very hydrated at the moment. So, plan for legs, reasonably similar to what I've been doing, honestly, this whole time. But I'll change it up just a touch. Or I've been changing it up just a touch. So rather, well, let's just break it down. So, gonna drive there, gonna park, gonna turn on some Yeet, then I'm gonna walk in, probably warm up my calves a little bit, just because before I do any leg curling, any hamstring work, if I don't warm up my calves, and it doesn't always happen, but sometimes the back of my knee, like the pit of my knee, I'll just get a little bit of tightness while I'm doing the leg curls. But if I do a little bit of calf warm up beforehand, I never really feel that. So I'll probably sit on the calf raise machine for, a couple of minutes, do a few sets, not working sets, but, normal weight, 5-ish reps, just get them warm, And then they have a laying leg curl, but I don't really love it. It's kind of grungy. It's like an old Nautilus one, but it needs to be upkept. It needs refurbishment. So I think I'll end up just spamming the seated leg curl that they have there, which I don't have any problem with. I love leg curls. My approach with hamstrings is very similar to quads. It's like almost the simpler the better. Leg curls, love it for hamstrings. Leg extensions, love it for quads. But that second part, I'm kind of starting to change my mentality about. So maybe 4 sets of heavy leg curls seated. Maybe some RDLs, maybe. I'll have to see how I feel, but I'm pretty satisfied with a solid hamstring day if the only thing I do is sit on that seated leg curl and just spam out set after set until I've done, all 8. Because by then I'll feel, fucking fatigued. Hamstrings are pumped up. That's what I'm aiming for, right? And after that, no matter what I start with for quads, even if it is leg extensions or squats or whatever, I'll always go to the leg extension just to get warm first. Because, it's like physically, muscularly, like I could probably squat pretty heavy without a warm up, but my knees would just kind of be like on fire. So, light single leg stuff, going back and forth, couple of reps, gradually increasing the weight, just warming up my whole little patella, all the other tendons that are going on in my knees, just makes me feel better on my first actual working sets. So, I might start with leg extensions. I definitely want to do some barbell squats mid quads once I'm pre-exhausted, so I don't have to go so heavy. There's a pendulum squat here, which I like. I'll probably try to get some of those going too. There's a machine leg press, potentially a leg extension drop set, What I'm saying right now, it's not really like exactly what I'm going to do in terms of exercise selection. I'm just kind of breaking down some of the stuff I have at my disposal. Because I don't know what I'm going to do until I'm actually in the scenario, in the gym. Once I've already finished hamstrings and I see how I feel, that's when I really kind of decide what I should do. Because, if for whatever reason one day squats just don't agree with me, maybe my hip feels kind of weird or my back hurts, or kind of rare, but sometimes if you ever fuck up your shoulder, like your rotator cuff, I've messed it up pretty decently before. Never surgery level, but like even the action of getting under a bar for squats was like, no, I gotta take a break for a while. If that's you, this is a little bit of a total tangent. You gotta see if your gym has a safety squat bar where it's just the pads and you get to hold on to the handles in front of you. Very good alternative. That's what I was doing when I kind of messed up my shoulder last, which was I don't know, it was a while ago. I've been pretty good. Probably from all the rotator cuff warm-ups that I've been doing. So, let's think about what else is supposed to go down. Yeah, nothing. I'm definitely going to do some calves at the end. Plus, I need to do more direct adductor work. So, adductors, not to be confused with abductors. You know, that's the machine where you're squeezing your legs together. First is the one where you spread them apart, where you're trying to, you know, get a bigger booty. Not really a machine I'm interested in, but, you know, perhaps if you're part of the 3% female viewership watching this, then that's you. You know, good on you. But for me, the adductor machine where you're squeezing your legs together, for one thing, I just think that that movement is awesome for stability. Like, I feel very sturdy squatting when I've been doing my adductors for a while, and just having them be, you know, more developed just kind of makes me less prone to wobbling or whatever else. I should do it more because my left adductor, it's not pulled, but it's like slightly tweaked. I need to, you know, toughen up that little area. If I squat too heavy, it kind of fucks with me. But, you know, just by adding the adductor machine at the end of your lift, I think if you've never done it before, over the course of weeks, if you still squat and leg press and stuff like that, you should begin to notice a difference. I would hope, at least. And when I do adductors, it's not really a balls to the wall set. Like, I'm not like getting amped up or putting on a hype song for my adductor sets. You know, I just kind of throw the whole stack on. 10 reps, really kind of burn out. Because it's not very hard to reach failure. Like, I can kind of get to a point where it just doesn't want to move anymore. Then I rack it, watch 10 TikToks. All right, it's been a minute, let's do another one. Any stimulation of a muscle is better than none. So if you, this is a total cope style situation. But if you're gonna skip calves completely, I mean, if that's your alternative, like if you don't want to do a dedicated calf workout, I mean, you know, maybe just sit on the freaking calf raise for a couple sets. You don't even have to go crazy, but just, you know, like I was just saying, any calf stimulation, any muscular stimulation is better than none. But really, that's stupid. You should just be, you know, hitting everything nice and hard. I kind of sound like a chump for saying that I'm going easy on them. So I still make sure they're good sets, but you know, if the main lift, if the main muscle groups of this lift are hamstrings and quads, you know, adductors are kind of the side dish. And I'll get some calves going as well. I need to get back on my daily calf routine. I kind of slack off on calves sometimes. I'll go on like a calf hiatus. And it's not like my calves are small, so I'm not totally screwed in the calf department. But I do want some freaking, you know, big drumsticks below my knees. So post lift, 8 sets of heavy calves, that'll do you good. So enough talking about it, enough freaking teasing it. What am I even saying? We're about to go do it. So let's just get in there for that first set of hamstrings, whatever that ends up being.